Absolutely. And I bet you would find as well, with the body work, especially like learning for a person to even learn what their body's wanting at a given time. I mean, that is a skill that
Yes.
really has to be practiced.
Yeah.
And we're not taught that.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why, I
Absolutely.
appreciate the hands-on and the work that you do, because it's, how else do we learn that in a setting that's safe? Where we're not necessarily thrown into a sexual situation and there's so much going on. What is he thinking? What am I thinking? Oh my God, am I wet enough? And am I hard enough? And, there's all those other complexities in a sexual encounter. To be able to pull all that apart and just go into an environment where you can learn how to want. And how to
Mm-hmm.
just want what you want, not what you think someone else wants you to want, right? That's a really common thing as well that I see a lot with my clientele is, her partner, he wants her to want something other than what she wants, right? And so she's totally disconnected from what she actually wants, first of all. I don't know what I want. And then he just wants her to want something, right? So there's all this messed up stuff going on around desire and where desire lives. And the fact is that desire lives within us,
Mm-hmm.
right? We can desire something for our partners, but we can't make somebody want something. That's completely out of our control. And but it causes, I think, a lot of problems in sex. Yeah, one of the things that really gets me is when someone will say, and I've even had, partners of mine say this, like, well, I shouldn't have to ask for it. Or if I have to tell you what I want, then it's not a turn on for me anymore. And I just gotta say, like, you gotta, if anyone watching this is like, that's a thing for you, like, you gotta get rid of that ASAP.
Yeah.
That is going to absolutely kill your capacity.
Absolutely. That's the romantic bullshit, as I say.
It really is. There's
It's
nothing hotter.
Fairy tale which we grew up with, but that doesn't work like that.
And it does not work. It will only lead to problems, I promise you. If you want to stick with it, you run with that and get back to me. Let me know how it works out for you. But I mean, I gotta say, there's nothing hotter than for me, my own journey was learning, wow, suddenly I knew what I liked. I knew what felt good on my body. And was able to say, wow, I want this right now. Do this right now. Touch me in this way. And I mean, that was the hottest, sexiest thing, to be able to actually give voice to that and then to be able to receive exactly what I was desiring. It was so beautiful.
Yeah. And
there's just so much power in that.
For instance, I am very happy when I know what my partner loves so that I can do that. For me, that feels way better than when I'm fumbling around and trying to guess what I like.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, the flip side of this too, the other thing that I've also heard, if you're just doing it because I like it, then it's no longer a turn on for me. Like, okay, well, why?
Yeah.
Why? You're getting exactly what you want, and it gives me great pleasure to see you in pleasure, but so there's a lot of just stuff that's mixed up in that. Or like, oh, but I want you to be feeling this certain way while you're doing this thing to me. Like you don't get to control where my pleasure lies in the doing of the thing or in the giving of the gift to you. That's entirely up to me. So, there's just a lot of there has to be really a lot more clarity around how pleasure, desire, and consent and all that, how that actually functions together.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if I can't enjoy you just doing that to me because I like it, why? What? I don't know. I just find that that's really a messed up thing. I don't know if you've ever run into that, but we need to really sort this out and realign our understanding of how pleasure actually works and functions.
Yeah. No, I ran in those things. If you all the time demand what you want, there is no fun in it. You need to be surprised. You need to let yourself be surprised. This is true. So I would say not only this side and not only the other side, but find a balance.
Absolutely.
Of course, it's nice to let your partner do and experience new things. If I only get what I know already,
right?
It's also another component to let the other the other person do what they think could be good, because then you can discover something new. It's a dance to go back to.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, I was just going to go back to somebody's comment about dance, and it is, it's the same thing on the dance floor and partner dance, which is why, I mean, when I work with couples, I'm like, I love it when I work with couples that already dance, but it'll be like a thing. I'll be like, wow, like go learn how to partner dance, because then you will understand what it means to be in the directive leadership role. You'll understand what it means to surrender and relax. But it's the same exact thing even in dance, because there's so much room really for the call and the response, that it is actually a conversation, and there's so much room for spontaneity and creativity, where the follow doesn't necessarily always have to only be in follow. He or she can break away and have her own little, creative spin, or could even take over the lead in some cases. So in that sense, it's really a matter of that deep, it's really about the connection. Ultimately, in that deep listening on the part of both partners. It's the exact same thing in sex, that when we really start to understand how desire and pleasure work, then we become much more attuned to our own bodies, our own desires, but also are much more attuned to our partners. And potentially there's a state really of union where it's not so clear. It's all just sort of happening at one time. It's not so clear like I'm leading, you're following, or I'm in masculine, you're in feminine. It actually becomes one beautiful dance that's just moving and creating together, which I think that's just sort of like, the culmination of the ecstatic moment, right? Which, it's all beautiful, but you're right, it becomes very creative, where the dance or the sex act is actually creating itself in the moment, that it's not pre-prescribed or predetermined, right? That's how we get bored also in sex. It's sort of like, oh, the same thing again and again, boom, 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 done, and on we go. It gets boring as well on the dance floor if you just dance with a partner that's always, I know his 5 moves, right? So you're right. Like, we really have to expand our capacity for creativity and for surprise and for more pleasure, which I think that really comes down to also the other side of that, which is knowing your boundaries and your limits, right? Which is really, that's how in the conversation around desire, pleasure, and consent, like the other side of consent is really the boundaries and the limits, right? It's not just like, hey, can I do this thing to you? It's not just asking. It's also our capacity to really be so tuned into our bodies, like, wow, am I a yes, am I a no, am I a maybe, and what does that actually feel like? And then that conversation around self-love, the most loving thing we can ever do for ourselves is listen to that and honor that. I mean, that's, I'm going through a whole inner journey around that right now, just with how easy it can be to subtly self-abandon for whatever reason. We, either we're not sure if we're yes, no, or maybe, like I can't feel it, so I just default to yes, or, or I want to please my partner, so I just kind of default to a yes when really I might be a no. I mean, it's very, very subtle. It's really subtle.